what we see on the ground today in Gaza, it's the outcome of October 7th, Hamas's attack, and we have to keep that in mind. Now, in the last week, the Israeli army started its ground operation. In the last 8 days. It's going, according to what I hear at least, according to the plan. They are making a progress on the ground, whether it's in the northern parts of Gaza, like Bet Hanun and Bet Lahia, or in Gaza City, especially in Zaytun area, Sajaiya, Sabra. There is an ongoing movement forward, and it seems that the IDF is getting closer and closer to the downtown of Gaza City, which is the central place for Hamas's regime. This is the symbol of Hamas's regime. We're talking about what is called in Arabic al-Muraba al-Amni, the quad-room quartet security area, and Shifa Hospital, the Islamic University. This is more or less the center of Gaza City. Till 2007, I was there a lot as an Israeli journalist on the ground. I'm not allowed to go there since 2007. And the IDF is getting very closer to these places. The problem is that, of course, Israel army, the IDF, is dealing with a kind of the biggest catch-22 that you can imagine. Meaning, Hamas did the biggest attack on Israeli territory, killed more than any other day in the history of Israel, killed more people than any other day in the history of people, killed more Jews than any other day since the Holocaust. And what they did immediately after that, they went underground. They went under the houses and neighborhoods of Gaza City, hoping that Israel either won't bomb them because they're hiding behind human shields, behind Palestinian civilians, or that if Israel will attack those neighborhoods that they are hiding in, it will kill many civilians, and by that, the whole world is going to accuse Israel for war crimes, just like what we see. So in a way, they predicted it, they wanted it, and in a way, they are succeeding. The problem that they are facing is that, yes, Israel is killing Palestinian civilians, whether we like it or not, and we don't like it, of course. But Israel is also making some very impressive military progress, managing to get to many Hamas's leaders on the battalion level, on the platoon level. He didn't get to the highest hierarchy Hamas commanders in the military wing yet, but we're talking about more than 1,000, more than 2,000 people from Hamas that were killed, and it is damaging Hamas's military wing. I'm not saying that Hamas is weak now. I'm not saying that Hamas is not functioning, but I'm saying that if someone in Hamas still have the capability to watch and understand what's going on around him, he understands that there's a war machine now, a big war machine that is coming on his way, and it's making every day another progress. So yes, Israeli soldiers are getting killed and injured, but at the end, what the price that Gaza is paying, it's terrible, and the price that Hamas is paying is also heavy, very heavy, and they will continue to pay a very heavy price. Now, the fighting inside Gaza, inside Bet Hanun, Bet Lahia, and also Gaza City, it's very dense, it's very complicated. It involves, of course, heavy artillery bombing, heavy aerial bombing from the Air Force and the artillery force, then an incursion of armed vehicles, and then at the end of the day, they send the ground troops to all kinds of positions all over those towns and neighborhoods that they're taking over. Their aim is to dismantle more Hamas terrorist cells and to get to the tunnels that are located underneath Gaza. Now, They didn't even start to really deal with all Gaza's tunnels infrastructure. It's huge. It's something that we cannot even imagine. It's not close to what the Viet Cong had, but the opposite, meaning it doubled 1,000, if not 2,000, of what the Viet Cong had in Vietnam. It's a huge system of tunnels that is allowing you as a Hamas group to transfer, to transit not only terrorists and hostages, but also motorbikes, and of course, artillery and rockets and everything that you can imagine. Under almost all of city, you will find a tunnel. This is why last week, when you saw the heavy bombing of Jabalia refugee camp, which is not a refugee camp, if to be honest, but of Jabalia neighborhood, you saw that the houses just fell like that, deep into the ground, meaning they were located above and underground, above a tunnel, a big tunnel. The Israeli army knew it, and this is why they bombed this place. And again, the tactics that is being used by Hamas is a kind of a guerrilla army fighting. Meaning they're not going into a face-to-face war against the Israeli army because they understand that the Israeli army is way bigger and stronger. So what they're doing is that every 2 or 3 terrorists pumping out of the tunnel together with a drone attack. After the drone attack, usually will come a guy with an RPG. They call it Yassin rocket. They shoot it on a tank or an armed vehicle, and then they get into the tunnel and run away again. Now, the sad thing about all this is that Hamas doesn't care about their own people. Hamas people as human shield, just like we saw in Shifa Hospital. You know, Shirona mentioned Fauda. On the 3rd season of Fauda, that was around 5 years ago, if I'm not wrong, that we wrote it. We wrote it in 2018. We had Shifa Hospital. Underneath Shifa, we had the headquarters of Hamas military wing. So it was the kind of a secret. It wasn't a kind of a classified something that the Palestinians didn't know about it or the IDF didn't know about it. Already 5 years ago, underneath Shifa, there was a very big headquarters of Hamas. So everyone knows it. Everyone all around the world are saying that, yes, we understand that. I swear, like every kid in Gaza knows that under Shifa, there's a Hamas headquarters. But no one talks about it. And, you know, this is something that we as Israelis, we will have to deal with in some way or the other. I don't know how. I hope that the IDF has some solutions for that. But Hamas having his own headquarters underneath Shifa, it's a known fact. And this is the case in all over Gaza. And right now, Gaza's population is the one that is paying the heaviest price. First, they were asked to leave their houses in North Gaza Strip, and many of them did that, around 750,000. But the ones that are left remained in some of the hospital, in some UNRWA schools, and the same places are still being used by Hamas to launch rockets or to execute all kinds of operations against the Israeli forces on the ground. And the Israelis, of course, are bombing back, but Hamas are hiding underground and more civilians are getting killed. This is not a surgical operation. You know, if you ask me, I'm a journalist, I'm not an official speaker for the Israeli government. So maybe my government or the IDF won't like me saying that. Because I read some American analyst that was in the Middle East for quite a long time, and I really appreciate what he has to say, but he said there's bombing here, there's bombing there. This is not a surgical operation by any means. And when I've read it, I understood that, you know, while he's sitting somewhere around in DC, if I'm not wrong at that point, he doesn't get what's going on. It's not anymore a surgical operation. It's a war. And it's a war where the enemy has rooted itself in the local population, among the local population, hoping and praying that his enemy, the Israelis, will kill his own people. And I know that it sounds terrible and it sounds cynical, but that is the very cynical aim of Hamas at that point. Not only to kill Israelis, but for them, as many civilians, Palestinian civilians will get killed, it's better for them. Why? Because it makes the other side looks like devils. It makes the other side look like war criminals.